My name is Jack. I am a 27-year-old guy working in IT. I consider myself a normal guy with a normal full-time job. I did not consider that there was anything worthy of sharing about me. How interesting could a guy working in IT get anyway? That all changed, however, when I bought my first home. This is how it started. I had always dreamed of owning my own house. So when I found a great deal on a beautiful old house through a real estate agent, I jumped at the opportunity. The agent, Mr. Smith, was a smooth talker and seemed very friendly, but something about him seemed off to me. He kept pushing me to sign the papers and close the deal as soon as possible, and the house seemed too good to be true for its cheap price. I was so excited about the house that I didn't want to let my doubts get in the way. After signing the contract and buying the house, Mr. Smith let out a long sigh as if some heavy burden was lifted off his chest. I did not think too much about it at the moment. Guess I was just too excited. I lived with my sister and mother before purchasing this property. I did not have much freedom as I could not throw parties or invite someone special to my mom's place. The day I moved in, I started planning all the cool events I will throw at this place, invite everyone in and have a blast. I began to settle into my new home, but then strange things started to happen. I would hear strange noises in the night, and I would wake up to find objects moved or tampered with. I shrugged it off, thinking it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. But then one night, something truly terrifying occurred. I was lying in bed trying to fall asleep when I felt an unseen force holding me down. I couldn't move and I couldn't speak. Suddenly, I saw a figure emerging from the darkness. It was a ghostly figure, shrouded in shadows. I couldn't make out its features, but I knew it was there and it was closing in on me. I felt an intense pain in my chest, and I knew I was in serious danger. I managed to break free from the invisible force holding me down and ran for the door. I ran to my sister's house. She could see how shaken I was, and she immediately knew something was wrong. I told her everything and she couldn't believe it. "What do you mean, you're being haunted?" my sister asked, her voice trembling with fear. "I don't know, but something is definitely wrong with that house," I replied. "I have to find a way to get rid of this ghost and end the curse on my house." "Have you talked to Mr. Smith about this?" she asked. "No, I haven't, but I think it's time I did. I have a feeling he knows more than he's letting on," I said as I was feeling a sense of dread wash over me. "Have you been doing drugs, Jack?" my sister asked in disbelief. Although I had opened up a bottle of wine to celebrate the win of my favorite football team before bed, I hardly think wine would have such an effect on anyone. I did not know what to say to my sister, and I had self-doubt about what happened. Maybe I was just imagining. My sister tried to comfort me and sent me home the next morning. Although I was still in shock to what happened, I called Mr. Smith and asked him about the history of the house. He hesitated, and I could tell he was hiding something. "Listen, I know the house had a bit of a reputation, but I assure you it's all just superstition. The previous owner was a bit eccentric. But there's nothing to be worried about," he said, his voice wavering. I didn't believe him, so I decided to do my own research. I should mention that the property was located a bit distant from the busy area. The nearest neighborhood was 10 blocks away. I did not have much interaction with any of the community as I was a bit introverted. At the time of the purchase, I thought the location was an advantage, as I would not get complaints of loud parties that I was planning to throw. It was about time I became more social and got out of my comfort zone. My research did not amount to much. Yes, Miss Smith would not have been able to sell the house if there were any evidence of it being haunted online. But one day, I got to hear why I needed to make the decision of moving out. After the incident, I never slept at my place. I went to a local motel to sleep and would only visit the house on bright sunny days with a cross in my hand for peace of mind. I was an IT engineer, so I could work from the motel if I wanted to. All I needed was an internet connection. One day while at the motel, someone approached me. "Hey, are you the new guy who moved to Mrs. Smith House, 79 Brompton Street?" An elderly man with concern on his face asked me as I was having my usual drink and working on my laptop at the cafeteria. "Yes, that would be me," I replied. "Sorry to bother you, my name is Robert. I must ask, son, that you move out of that house." Before he could finish his sentence, I had a feeling where the conversation was going. This person knew about my place, and I think he was trying to warn me about the spirits. I interrupted him and said, "Weird things have been happening at my place. Tell me, is it haunted?" For a moment, there was silence. I initially thought I made a fool out of myself asking such a stupid question. What a paranoid guy who thinks his house is haunted and stays in the motel most of the time. But he smiled and said, "Oh, so you know. I was worried that it might be harder for you to understand. Seems like you are already aware of the state of the house. In that case, let me get to the point." Robert told me everything he knew about the place and confirmed its history. I discovered that the previous owner had been a notorious witch who had been burned at the stake. I also found out that the property had been cursed by the villagers. I couldn't believe it. I had unknowingly purchased a haunted house and it had almost cost me my life. I also dug deeper into Mr. Smith's background and I found out that he was a descendant of the witch. He had always been ashamed of his family's history and wanted to sell the house at any cost to get rid of the curse and the ghost. He didn't care if someone's life was in danger, just wanted to get rid of the house. Call me frantic, but this information was enough for me to confirm my experience was indeed paranormal. I had to find a way out of this place. I had spent so much money on this property. Getting rid of it and making my money back was not easy. Robert suggested not to resell the house as the new owners would suffer the same fate, but he did give me a helpful option. As I mentioned, the house was a bit far away from the busy area, and according to Robert, a company wanted to purchase the property for a landfill. This was my perfect opportunity. I decided to contact the company and give them an offer and sold the property, making a profit. Call me lucky to have met Robert. The old fellow lived in the neighborhood since he was a kid and knew a lot about the area, including the history of the haunted house. I could not thank him more. I moved out to another nearby city. I never told my sister the real reason I decided to sell the house. I just told her that I got a deal I could not refuse and got a better house. That was the end of my story about the haunted house. I do not know what would happen after they turned it into a landfill, and I could not care less. I am just happy to leave.